Hello and welcome to the WTF podcast with The Flow. My name is Stephanie Babane and I'm here to help answer all of your WTF questions when it comes to all things related to spirituality, mindset, and the metaphysical. I'll answer your what the F, who the F, where the F, when the F, why the F, and even though it doesn't start with a W, the occasional how the F questions that you might have upon entering the world of personal development and embarking on a spiritual journey. Ultimately, my hope and intention is that at the end of every single episode, you leave smiling and understanding a little bit more about yourself and how to live a happier life in the flow with this miraculous, infinitely expanding, all-loving universe that we all call home. I love you. Let's effing do this. Hello, friend. Welcome back to the WTF podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, especially if you're coming back after the first episode. It means the world that you're here, and I'm so excited. I'm so happy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so today's topic, funny enough, this is actually my third time recording this podcast. I recorded it twice the other day, and both times I felt like the information was valuable, but there was sound issues, and I just something didn't feel completely right. And it's because I realized that this is not going to be a 1-question episode. This is going to be a 3-question episode because there are just some things that I can't mention, or that I can't not mention, rather, for the topic that I originally wanted to speak of. So the 3 questions for this episode are, who the F are we? Why the F are we here? And in honor of the show, what the F is flow? And if you want to add a 4th one in, how the F do we get into flow? How do we stay with the flow? So it's a 3, maybe 4-part question. So it's a loaded topic. It's not like, I'm just going to be here saying that I'm going to tell you like who you are without acknowledging that it's a loaded question. When you start to jump into spirituality and personal development, one question that you might hear often, especially when you start meditating, is the question, who am I? And so right now, I'd love for you to just ask yourself that and see what the first answer is that comes up for you when that question is asked, okay? Who am I? Okay. Is the first thing that comes to your mind your name? Maybe it's your name. Pretend that your name is not an option, okay? So now who are you? Do you think I am a sister? I am a brother. I'm a mom. Okay, well, pretend that that's not an option either. Now who are you? Did you pick maybe your job, your employment, or did you say a friend? There are so many different answers that can come up when you ask this question. But the truth is that none of those answers are actually the answer. And I know that this might start to be a little eye twitchy for you. If your eye starts twitching because you're like all confused, don't worry. That's going to happen a lot. It still happens with me. The truth of who you are, who I am, who we all are, but I'm going to speak directly to you, is that you are actually a spiritual being living inside a physical body. I will repeat. You are a spiritual being living in a physical body. And so I want you to think of it this way. When you talk about your body, you never say, am hand. You never say, am head, am feet, am stomach. You say, my hand, my head, my feet, my stomach. Meaning that you are not your body. You are not a body. You inhabit a body. Why else would you have to say my? If you were your body, you would say, I am hand, am body. Who are you? Am body, am toe. There would be no reason for you to say my. So now that you understand, hopefully, or we're told that you are a spiritual being living in a physical body, maybe the scientist in you wants to come out. Well, there was a man named Semyon Kirlian. I hope I'm saying his name right. I believe I am. Semyon Kirlian, who invented a form of photography that, when used, shows light around objects, including our physical bodies. This light represents the energy that we're all made of. All science and all theology agree on one thing, and that is that we are all made out of energy. Whether you believe in the universe, whether you call it God, whatever it is, another episode, everything in this entire universe is made out of energy, including you, including your body. That energy just is. It is not good. It is not bad. It is not positive. It is not negative. It just is. And it is constantly flowing to and through you. Why are we here? Why the F are we here? Well, we're here to manipulate that energy. The purpose of your soul purpose in life, if you will, is to grow and experience and create. Experience and create what? Absolutely whatever you want. That's the caveat. That's the caveat that most people are like, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. You are literally created to create whatever you want in life using that energy. So imagine that this energy is like a lump of clay being given to you, and you just get to mold it however you want. Okay? So who the F are you? You are a spiritual being living in a physical body. And energy is constantly flowing to and through you. Why the F are you here? To manipulate that energy to create whatever it is that you want in life. How do you create whatever you want in life? Through your thinking. Everything that you create in life is created through your habitual way of thinking. Meaning that if you are more geared towards thinking negatively, you will create more negative experiences. And if you are geared towards thinking more positively, you will create more positive experiences. I will go much deeper into this as episodes grow, as I go into further episodes, because this is not just like a one-time thing, but this is important to mention when leading into the next question of what the F is flow. So I'm going to explain flow in what I would consider a smaller sense that represents a much greater sense. So first, I'll explain what flow state is. I'm sure you may have heard of it. If not, it's pretty much the same as being in the zone. Flow state is when you are in the middle of something, anything, any activity, and you are fully immersed, you're focused, you're energized, you're just fully involved, and you're actually enjoying it. Nothing can get in your way. Nothing can get in your way, nothing can get you down. What comes to mind for me most often when I think of flow state for whatever reason is an athlete, a musician, or a dancer. But it can be in any activity. It can be sewing. It can be teaching. It can be mowing the lawn. It can be doing laundry. It can be really in any moment that you start to find flow state. And what's cool about flow state is that things don't have to go your way for you to be in flow state. There can still be a struggle or an outcome that you didn't necessarily want, and you can still flow through it. The way I like to think of it is when you're learning a skill, for example, guitar. More than likely, unless you are like a savant or some kind of prodigy, you're not going to be good at it right away. There's going to be a little bit of a struggle in the beginning because you're learning, right? Like anything else, you have to basically be willing, like anything that you want to be good at, you have to be willing to suck at it first. You have to be willing to make mistakes. You have to be willing to fall, and you keep coming back. Ideally, if you're doing something like that, it's because you love it. And so if you love it, even in the struggle, you are finding flow because you're enjoying it, because nothing can get you down, because you keep coming back up. One example that comes to mind is when I listened to another podcast called the Darren O'Lean podcast. Great podcast, highly recommend. And Darren O'Lean was interviewing a guy who I believe was a baseball player, and he was talking about a time where he was in a game, and I believe the stakes were like really high, and he hit the ball, ran to the bases, and within running, he just felt completely okay. Like all was well. He just knew that he was in flow state. But here's the thing. They didn't win the game. So that's my point in saying that flow state does not require you to necessarily have everything going your way, but you can still move with what's happening. So how does this reach into a broader, greater sense of when you're living life? Well, now that I've told you that you're a spiritual being living in a physical body and your sole purpose here is to create, and that the way you create is through your thinking, that means that every single result in your life, every single one, is of your creation. And that's not always an easy thing to accept or grasp or understand, because immediately you might be wondering, why the F would I have created this? Or like, I know I didn't ask for this. Every single thing in your life is of your own creation because of whatever decisions you've made. Every single decision has had a consequence that's led to another decision, that's led to another consequence, that's led to another chain reaction, and so forth and so forth. And on a cosmic level, other people's decisions have created a consequence that has created a circumstance, and so forth. Even if you didn't consciously ask for something, the truth is that somewhere in your mind, subconsciously, through your decisions, you did. That is not a reason to start blaming yourself. That is not a reason to get down on yourself in any way. That is just actually, if anything, the opportunity for you to acknowledge just how powerful you are. Because if there's a circumstance that you don't like and you know you created it, that means that you can create a circumstance that you do like. And this podcast will, in every episode, explain more and more how you can do that. But going back to flow, that means that you are the one creating the flow in your life. So imagine that life, like we're all one big ocean. Every single human being is part of a massive ocean, because whether you believe in science or theology, we all come from the same source. I don't care what you call it. We all come from the same source, every single human being. So we are all one. We are all connected. And so we are one massive ocean, but each of us is riding our own wave. The wave that you're riding is flowing because of the choices that you've made. The opposite of flow is resistance or feeling blocked, but I'm going to use resistance here. However, you'll probably hear that word a lot as well. Resistance is a big one, but you might hear like, oh, I'm blocked, like my chakra's blocked or something like that. And I'll explain what chakras are. Resistance is created when you are looking at your present circumstances or your present results and you are saying no to them. You are emotionally reacting to them in a negative way, and rather than accepting them is the best way that I can explain it. So like, let's say, here's an example. So I take an improv class, and one of the rules in improv is yes and. Yes and means that no matter what your partner says, whatever comes out of your partner's mouth, no matter how ludicrous it is, no matter how far left field it is, you have to say yes to it. So if your partner says that you are a four-eyed, monkey-tailed pirate alien who has come to the planet of Gugawa to steal all of the guavas to make a castle for your queen, I don't know, I tried to go super far out left field with that. You say yes. You say yes to all of those things. You say, yes, I am a four-eyed, monkey-tailed alien pirate that's here to steal all of the guavas on planet Gugawa for my pirate queen. Queen? I don't know. I lost the last part. Anyway, you say yes. Why do you say yes? Well, because for one thing, it's way more fun and you have way more opportunities to expand off of it. What happens if you say no to the scene? The scene ends. The scene ends, or it's way harder to come back from it. Now you've left your partner hanging and you have to come up with something different. Whereas if you just say yes and, opportunity presents itself and you can expand off of that. So think of your life this way. Anytime that you have a circumstance that you don't like, instead of saying no to it and creating more resistance, try saying yes and to it. I am not saying that this is an easy thing, but ultimately the greatest practice that you can do in life when you are getting a result that you don't like is to step back from it and observe it without getting emotionally involved. Look at it from an objective point of view and say, I don't think this is what I want. And then flip the script, shift your focus, and focus on what you do want. And I say this because, first of all, two things. Wherever your focus goes, energy flows. Meaning, whatever you resist persists. And whatever you resist persists because you're focusing on it. And so whatever you focus on expands. Wherever your focus goes, energy flows. You are being given this energy. You get to manipulate it based on what you focus on and how you think about it. So if you're looking at your present circumstances, you are focusing on what you don't like and therefore creating more of the same. That is why it is a practice to objectively look at it and say, yes, this is happening and I don't care and I don't give a fuck. Yes, and I want this. Focus on this. Put all of your attention on what you want. It is a practice of your mind. That means you are disciplining your mind. That is why I'm saying it's not easy. That is actually why it's called work. This is part of doing the work. And it's not easy because we weren't taught this way. We have been conditioned and programmed to think completely opposite, to look at our circumstances and respond to that. Whereas I'm challenging you to yes and the crap out of your life, to just go with it. Here's another way that you can think of it. Imagine that you've already created this flow. Another thing, it's called momentum, which will be another episode. But let's say that you're going downstream and this water is flowing downstream. You are the water. You're in the water for this example. You're in the water and suddenly you get terrified of where the water's taking you because it's taking you in a direction that you didn't think you were supposed to be going. It's not the way that you thought it was supposed to go. And so instead, you start swimming against the current. You start to try to go backwards to save yourself, to protect yourself, because you have a fear of the unknown. Because you think, no, it's not supposed to happen this way. It's supposed to happen this way. As long as you are going in the direction of your goal. So you need to have a goal, which is, again, another episode. Every time I talk, I'm like, this is another episode. If you have a focus and you know that you are going to reach that focus, you know you're going to reach that goal, how you get there is not necessarily up to you. Going back to improv, you say yes and even though you didn't know that your partner was going to take you there. When you're driving and you know that you're going somewhere and then there's a detour because of road work or an accident, you know you're still getting to that destination. Maybe it'll take you a little bit longer, but you're getting there. If you're swimming against the current, it's ironic because then you're literally trying to go backwards, but most likely you're just staying in the same place because the current is probably going to be stronger than you can swim. You're staying in the same place or you're trying to go backwards when you can only ever go forward in life. If you really want to grow, that's what growing is. It's moving forward. You know what I love that is so in sync with what living a spiritual life really is when it comes to improv. I make so many comparisons now, is when someone throws you for a loop in improv, it's actually called a gift. And it's called a gift for the reasons that I stated before, because you have opportunities to go in different directions. When you are faced with a challenge, an obstacle, something doesn't go the way that you thought it was going to, the way you thought it was supposed to go, I invite you to ask yourself, what is the gift that is coming from this? It's very similar to the question of what am I learning? What can I learn from this? What is this teaching me? What is the gift? When you think of a detour in a car ride, I mean, maybe you avoided an accident, or maybe you made a stop and ended up meeting your soulmate. Or maybe you, if you want to think of a situation where you got in a car accident, maybe the paramedic becomes your future spouse. Like, you have no idea. You really have no idea what beauty can come out of tragedy. There are so many great leaders in the world who were born out of tragedy, who were born out of suffering. And ideally, none of us have to struggle. None of us have to suffer. But that's contrast. We have to know what it's like to struggle in order to know what it's like to prosper. How much we struggle and how much we prosper is entirely up to us, based on the choices that we make, based on the way that we think. Remember, it all comes back to you. All of it. If you think about yourself as water, now you're not in the water, but you are the water. Imagine that you're flowing down a mountain and you've just got like this beautiful stream going. And then a boulder gets put on top of you. And so you're not flowing as much, right? But in this scenario, so just understand that the boulder is you. Any obstacle that comes in the way is inevitably put there by you, because everything's of your own creation. Again, if your eye's twitching, it's okay. But everything is of your own creation. So if you have an obstacle, it's maybe because you had a doubt and that placed it there. Or it's because you had to be prepared. You had to learn a lesson. I know I'm tangenting, but I'm just going to go with this for a second, because this is where the flow is going. If you have an obstacle, if you have a detour, a challenge, and you don't know what the gift is, maybe the gift is that you're being prepared for your goal. Maybe you are learning a lesson. Maybe you are meeting a person. Maybe you are gaining a skill. In order to get what you want in life, you have to be prepared to receive it. You have to be prepared to handle it. The perfect example that I've heard a million times that I'll repeat to you is if you think about a person that went from dead broke to winning the lottery and then losing it all. It's amazing. It's beautiful that they won it, but they lost it all because they weren't prepared to handle the responsibility of having that much money. So if you're asking for a relationship, are you emotionally available and mature enough to handle the relationship that you're asking for? The same goes for a job position. The same goes for the money that you want. Anything in life, you need to be able to handle it before you can have it. So the gift most likely is that you're being prepared for what you want. It's not a reason to quit. It's not a reason to stop. It's not a reason to swim backwards. It's your It's in your best benefit to keep going with the flow, the direction in which it is already going. Okay? That is for your best benefit, as long as you know where you're going. The thing is, most of us don't actually necessarily know where we're going. A lot of us don't set goals in life. The way that most of us live is we are born, we get a job, we pay bills, we get married, sometimes we go on vacation, and we die. You retire maybe, and we die. When you start learning just how powerful you are, when you really start to understand that you create every single thing in your life, that's when you really get to start dreaming big. That's when you really start to get thinking about, what do I really want to create? And so now going back to the water, if you being the water, and I made this up, so it doesn't make sense. Forgive me. But I think it fits. You're the water. You're going down a mountain, effortlessly flowing down. And then a boulder is placed in front of you, stops the flow of the water. Well, what do we know about water? Water takes the shape of everything. Water can seep through the smallest of cracks. Water can move around things. It can find its way around things. And water is so strong that over time, it carves a new path for itself. So you get to flow like water. You get to move around things if they are not to your liking. You get to carve new pathways for yourself. And I don't know if that conflicts with the whole going with the flow thing, but with going in the direction of like you being in the water. But I think you get what I'm saying. I'm going to trust that you get what I'm saying. What I'm talking about for the example of you being water definitely also applies to creating new neural pathways, which, you guessed it, is another podcast episode. So I think I'm going to leave it here. I think I answered everything, and I hope that it made sense, and I hope that you have a better understanding of what life actually is, and you can start to see the direction of where this podcast is going. I will be teaching you a lot more about this, and I'll also be teaching you about different healing modalities. Like I mentioned, Reiki, sound healing, yoga. There's so many different ways of learning this material. What I found as I've studied for the last 3 years is that I just keep hearing the same thing over and over again, said in a different way. And that's basically what all of studying science and theology is everyone is pretty much just saying the same thing in a different way. So I'm going to do my best to explain it in a way that can cater to as many people as possible. But ultimately, I'm going to explain from my experience and the way that I'm learning it and the way that I've come to understand it the most. So to summarize up again, just one more time, who the F are you? You are a spiritual being living in a physical body. Why the F are you here? To manipulate the energy that is constantly flowing to and through you, to create whatever you want with that energy, and to grow and expand, to experience life. And what the F is flow. Flow is the direction in which your life is going based on the decisions that you have made. And one really important thing to understand is that the circumstances that you have in your life right now are simply residual outcome from your past decisions, meaning that the decisions that you make today will reflect in your results tomorrow. And the decisions that you make tomorrow will reflect in your results the following day. So the current results that you have right now, they don't actually mean anything. They don't mean anything about your potential. They don't mean anything about where you can go in life. See them through an objective lens. Decide what you want to keep and decide what you want to focus on, and decide what you want to let go of. Okay? Decide what you want to let go of, decide what you want to keep, focus on what you want to keep, focus on what you want. That is when you start consciously directing the flow of your life, because your life is flowing no matter what. It's just that when you don't like it, you're saying no to it and you're resisting it and inevitably creating more of it. Whereas I'm telling you, just go with it, yes, and it, and then focus on what you want so that you start creating a new flow, a new path. There's the connection with the waters. There it is. I know what I'm talking about. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave it here at that. If you have any questions that you want to ask, if you want to know anything more, listen to the show notes at the end. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me at Coach Stephanie B. It's all there. In the meantime, until next week, I hope that you are smiling. I hope that you remember just how amazing and powerful you are. I, in fact, encourage you to listen to this multiple times until it really starts to register. And that's not for my ratings or my views. That's because it takes a lot of repeating to really understand something and grasp in your mind. And I will explain the power of repetition. I will explain everything. Okay, I'm going to go now. I'm going to stop ranting. I love you so freaking much. Have the best week ever. Keep shining. Keep flowing. Keep creating more of what you want. Talk to you soon. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode of the WTF podcast. I hope that you gained all kinds of value from listening and that your WTF question was answered. If you like what you heard and you want to hear more, then be sure to hit the subscribe button and follow me on Instagram at Coach Stephanie B. If you have a WTF question of your own, or you have any interest in working one-on-one with me, then feel free to send me a private message. And when it comes to your question, I'll do my best to answer it either here or privately. In the meantime, until the next episode, I'm wishing you the most wonderful day, the most wonderful week, and reminding you to smile and then see if you can make somebody else smile. Until next time.